What do you do when you are fighting for justice, but your heart is filled with guilt? Our client was told he had no case, that the system was stacked against him. But the real fight wasn't against the powerful company, it was against his own deep loyalty to his past.
Today, we enter the courtroom of the soul. We witness the moment a man stops fighting for an idea and starts claiming his rightful place. The system will always reveal the truth, even when the lawyers and advocates try to bury it. Justice is not always about winning. It's about balance. Welcome to Younique Yet Connected. I'm Nolita Kozwa Fenton Itolokazi, the explorer of the unseen, the unheard, and the untold. The space holder, seeker, and sacred witness in the work of systemic family constellations. As always, I'm not alone. Kinga and Nika on the other side of the virtual. Over to you, Kings.
Thank you, Noli. Hello, Nick. Dear listeners and co-editors. This is where we explore the hidden patterns that shape our lives. I am King Osilaji, facilitator and guide through the field where unseen truths rise to the surface. Together, we walk the invisible terrain of the family soul, where the wisdom that speaks is when the system reveals itself.
Thank you for joining our movement of translating the wisdom of systemic family constellations into a practical language that all of us can understand and, most importantly, implement in our daily lives. Our first topic is the anatomy of the soul and the unlawful retrenchment. This is the Field Knows series, where in each episode we share stories from the field that are from our workshops and individual sessions. Our client came to us overwhelmed by anxiety and panic attacks.
He was facing a 4-day, high-stakes court case, and his confidence was shattered. The opposing counsel, the company he was suing, had confidently informed him he had no chance to win.
The case originated as an HR issue. Our client, who had dedicated 27 years of loyal service, was unlawfully retrenched. The company paid bare minimum, but retrenchment was a falsehood.
They immediately hired someone else for his exact role. They used retrenchment as an excuse because they lacked the legal grounds to simply dismiss him. It was a breach of the fundamental bond of trust.
The deep systemic issue was the guilt and loyalty. Our client, a man of profound integrity, still loved his old company. He felt guilty for suing, as if he were betraying his own history.
He channeled all his anger onto one person, his former boss, to protect the systemic belief that the company itself was good. He was carrying the company's shame as if it were his own guilt.
The situation worsened when the company retaliated, demanding he pay their legal fees, hundreds of thousands of rands. They were using financial intimidation to force him to quit.
His anxiety was compounded by the disparity in representation. The company had a senior, top-tier labor advocate, while our client had a younger, though smart advocate.
The opposing layer even bragged about the certainty of their win in a chance meeting. Our client was trying to stay positive, but internally he was crumbling under the weight of the impossible.
He came to us on the Saturday before the Monday court case. When a client feels such a profound guilt for seeking justice, we know the responsibility in the system is misaligned.
We first explored where the ownership of the case truly lay. Surprisingly, he believed the case belonged to his wife because she suggested it. He was avoiding the weight of his own fight.
He took absolute responsibility for the conflict, effectively absorbing the company of their part. Systematically, this is deeply unbalanced. In conflict, both parties must own part.
Our client could not bring himself to hurt his old company by holding them accountable. This over-responsibility was physically manifesting as debilitating panic attacks.
He was trying to carry the company's wrongdoing by holding their part for them. He was leaving himself no strength to stand up for his own rights in the courtroom.
We had to show him that returning the responsibility wasn't an act of aggression. It was an act of restoration. Justice cannot breathe in a space where one person carries all the blame.
The field was set to find the truth behind the legal masks. We need to see if the Goliath company was actually as strong as the client's fear made them out to be.
Exposing the power dynamics and the judge's truth. Constellation began by setting up the client, the company, the judge, and the client's advocate, and the company's senior advocate. The energy in the room was initially heavy.
One of the client's biggest fears was the company might have bought the judge. This reflects a primal fear that the system is blind to the truth of the little man.
Before the field showed the truth, we had to work on the perception of the enemy. The company had spent time making themselves look unbeatable, and the client had swallowed that hook.
Think about your own intimidator. Often the loudest voice hides the biggest mistake. We either fail to show the source of the opponent's power. Was it skill or was it a mask?
The judge stood centered and highly attentive. To our client's shock, the judge was visibly not impressed by the company's advocate. The judge focused intently on our client.
The client's fear was neutralized by the judge's impartiality. The judge didn't see a big company and a small man. The judge saw a set of facts waiting for balance.
Then we looked at the company's lawyer, the one who bragged. In the field, he was hiding behind the company's representative, completely invisible and weak. His threats were empty bravado.
The senior advocate, meant to be a titan, was shown by the representative to be tired and lacking conviction. His power was an illusion fueled only by the client's internal panic.
Crucially, the energy of the case itself went back to the company. The field clearly showed that the origin of the conflict, the unlawful retrenchment, was entirely their weight to carry.
The key systemic lesson here is that justice systems are attempts to re-establish balance. When a powerful entity acts unlawfully, the systemic soul favors the wrong party.
The client's initial guilt blocked this natural flow. Once he allowed the responsibility to rest with the company, the judicial energy could finally flow fairly.
The imbalance was not in the court, it was in the client's own heart. The field corrected that internal misalignment, which set the stage for the external justice to manifest.
He saw the company's representative as smaller than himself for the first time in months. They weren't the company anymore. They were a group of people who made a mistake.
The anxiety began to drain from his body. His posture straightened. He was no longer a victim waiting for a sentence. He was a participant in a process of truth.
This is the power of disarming the intimidator. When you see the human behind the legal letterhead, the weapon loses its edge. You realize they are just as afraid as losing as you are.
By Saturday afternoon, the client had his soul armor on. He understood that the judge was ready to listen, and the company was hiding a very weak hand. You are still listening to Younique Yet Connected. The theme for this episode is the impossible court case, honoring loyalty while reclaiming justice. Remember, when you comment, ask questions, like and share our content and link, you help us grow and change lives together. Like us on Facebook and Instagram.
The resolution, reclaiming justice and sovereignty. Armed with this truth, our client went to courtroom on Monday. He was still nervous. That's human. But he was fundamentally changed. He was no longer fighting against his own guilt.
The results were astonishing. By midday Monday, he called us. The 4-day cruel event he imagined was already falling apart for the opposition.
The case was postponed due to a major company mistake in their own filings. The judge was visibly upset with the company's lack of preparation. The unbeatable team had stumbled.
The company, seeing their aggressive tactics fail and the judge's favor shift, immediately offered a settlement. They went from threatening him to seeking a swift, quiet exit.
The Constellation didn't win the case. It freed the client to win it on his own terms. He was no longer acting from fear, but from a place of systemic truth.
He went back to the negotiation table empowered. He could now determine the terms of the settlement based on honor, not just a desperate need to make the threats go away.
We encouraged him to consciously acknowledge, I honor the 27 good years I had, and I claim the justice for the way they ended it. This separates loyalty from accountability.
By separating the two, he could walk away whole. He didn't have to hate the company to win against them. He just had to let them be responsible for their own actions.
The most formidable opponent we face is often our own internal loyalty to the system that wronged us. We feel like bad children for calling out the parent company.
Once you return the responsibility, the path to peace opens. The client's panic attacks stopped that day. Justice is simply the act of putting things where they belong.
He was able to look at his old boss, not with blinding rage, but with a quiet understanding that the boss's action were now the boss's problem to solve with the board.
The settlement was reached within the week. It was more than he had initially hoped for, but exactly what the field had suggested was fair for the imbalance caused.
This is why we call it the courtroom of the soul. Before the judge in the black robe speaks, the judge within must decide that you are worthy of being heard.
Justice is not a given by the powerful. It is a balance claimed by the honest. The client reclaimed his sovereignty and his financial future in one stroke.
He moved from a place of the impossible to a place of the balanced. The company had to pay for the minimum they tried to cheat him out of.
The external fight disappears when the internal truth is seen. He walked out that courtroom, not as a retrenched employee, but as a man who had stood his ground.
Reflection exercise. We invite you now to step into a moment of contemplation regarding the conflicts or court cases in your own life, whether they are legal or emotional.
Locate the conflict. Identify a current disagreement or unresolved situation where you feel lesser than your opponent. Feel where that sits in your body. The question, ask yourself, am I carrying 100% of the guilt for a situation where I only own part of the action? Release the other's part. Visualize your opponent. Lies, their greed, or their mistake. Say, this belongs to you. Imagine them looking at you with total impartiality. Can you feel your value in their eyes? The sentence. Say this internally to the system that wronged you. I honor the good that was, but I hold you accountable for the wrong that is. I claim my balance. The movement. Imagine yourself standing at your full height. Notice if your opponent still looks as large as they did 10 minutes ago. Breathe in your own sovereignty. You are allowed to seek justice without feeling like a traitor. Balance is your birthright.
Key lesson and integration. The lesson of the impossible court case is clear. Responsibility must rest where it belongs. Where you carry someone else's wrong, you have no hands free to build your own future.
Justice is simply balance. Don't let your loyalty to the good old days blind you to the bad current reality. You can honor the past while demanding a fair present.
As you settle into your rhythm this week, ask, where am I feeling guilty for seeking my own justice? What burden can I return to its rightful owner? Mine has already cleared in this session.
The external fight often dissolves when we stop fighting ourselves. Trust the system's need for balance. Trust your own right to be seen.
Join the Younique Yet Connected community, because sometimes the most powerful legal strategy is a soul that knows it is in the right. Claim your field of balance today.
Thank you for your contribution in helping us be chosen as the top 10 South Africa family podcast by FeedSpot. We are also thrilled to be ranked among the best 30 family therapy and best family secrets podcasts by A Million Podcasts. To celebrate our growing community, join our monthly virtual connection circle every first Tuesday evening of the month. To receive your link, subscribe on our website www.uniqueyetconnected.com or check for updates on our socials at Younique Yet Connected.
In the next episode, we still share with you how the field reveals the roots, the repetition, and the release.
And along the way, we will guide you in understanding how this work can support your own healing. Because the field doesn't just know my story, it knows yours too.
So take a deep breath, open your heart, and join us as we share with you what the field knows.
Because sometimes what you are searching for isn't outside of you. It is waiting quietly in the field for you to remember.
A big thank you to you for listening to our episode, and to Nick Mons from That Guy Productions for making us sound fabulous and on point.
For episode 94, tune in on Sunday, 3rd of May 2026 from 10 a.m. South African Standard Time. For links and updates, stay tuned to our Facebook and Instagram pages at Younique Yet Connected, Younique spelled Younique.
Stay unique, stay connected, and remember, you are one of a kind. We can only create a really meaningful podcast together. Siyabulela, Kosonom, Bayadangi.
Thank you, Siyabulela, Kosonom, Bayadangi.